Hello, this is Gail Benz, the treasurer from Peace Lutheran Church. I'm here to give you an update on the 2020 budget and our final expenses, along with the proposed budget for 2021. I want to start today with some budget highlights from 2020. We had 90 households contributing to the mission plan. Of those 90 households, we had 69 that contributed regularly to the mission plan since March, which was the beginning of COVID. We received $61,000 in grant and/or loan funding for COVID. We had $33,000 paid toward extra principal payments toward our mortgage. We had $12,500 in contributions to Elsie's Pantry. We finished our year with a deficit of $99.51 compared to $28,000 in 2019. And then lastly, our Piece It Together campaign contributions was $89,000 for the year. So our 2020 budget was approved, that it was approved at last year's annual meeting was about $353,000. And throughout the year, we continued to reduce our expenses the best we could. So our actual expenses then were about $310,000 for the year, about $43,000 less than what we budgeted. This shows a summary of the contributions to our mission fund and the overall deficit for the year. Our offerings were about $252,000. We transferred $48,000 to cover the youth director's salary and our monthly principal mortgage payments. So our total revenue was about $300,000. And after subtracting our expenses, our overall deficit for the year was about $10,000. This slide represents the breakdown of our Piece It Together campaign. We started the year with about $10,500 in that balance. We had contributions of about $89,000. We had expenses of our youth director, the monthly mortgage payments, and then an additional mortgage principal payment of $33,000 for a total of about $82,000. And so we ended up our year with an ending balance of almost $17,000. One of the programs that really helped us this year was a loan from the SBA through the Payroll Protection Program. We applied for about $40,000 and we received that money. We used those funds to pay for utilities and payroll costs during the months of May and June. And those additional funds have helped us offset our mission fund deficit this year. So the reality is we end up with this surplus of about $30,000. And so if you look at the total balance for the year, we started in the mission fund of about $15,000. We increased it by $30,000. So we're ending our year with $45,000 as a surplus in our mission fund. And that's what we'll begin the year with, which helps us greatly as we move forward. Another note about the payroll protection money, that's a totally forgivable loan by the SBA, and we anticipate that we will have it fully forgiven. So here's the proposed budget for 2021. We use the actual expenses, which you'll see in column 3 there, as the basis for 2021. Each section of the budget is broken down on the following pages, so you can look at that more closely. So the increase is actually about roughly about $17,000 over last year, and that increase is primarily because of the anticipated electrical costs that we could incur. Earl's going to give you more information about the specifics of our ongoing issue with Tesla and Smeco. But in the event that we have to fully pay our electricity costs in the coming year, we thought we'd better budget for that. And so that really is the increase in our total budget. The amount that we need to fully fund this budget would be about $24,000 in monthly contributions, plus the $3,000 from the Piece It Together transfer. And those two together, that roughly $27,000, represents about $3,200 additional over 2020, over 2020. So if we kind of look at our 69 families that contribute regularly, if we divided that out, that $3,200, that's about $50 a month that we would need in increased contributions from families, if possible, to meet that, fully fund that budget. So the next two slides are the budget in detail, and I'll let you look at those at your leisure. Um, each one is just based on 2020 actual spending and a change of a little bit here and there as we thought needed to be. I would call your attention to the personnel and the changes in pastors' compensation. Mid-year, we had an increase in the amount of insurance that we paid for pastor and her family. We previously shared that expense with Good Samaritan Lutheran Church, but upon Mitch's retirement, we became responsible for the full policy. So that would increase in the pensions and benefits area there. Also in the summer, we changed the way pastor's salary was expensed. We reduced her salary and increased the housing allowance. It didn't change her overall compensation package, just changed the way it was broken down. And then also, if you look over there in property, we have an addition of janitorial services. Again, we had suspended those during COVID time and now anticipate the increase of those as we move forward in 2021. So that definitely changed that account. The next two slides are a summary of our expenses for the year. You'll note the top part has your revenues for the year, and then your operating expenses on this first page, followed by the operating expenses on the second page. And again, at the bottom here, we have your year-to-date contributions and the information about the total deficit for the year, then the effects of the PPP grant, and then finally the last box has again that amount that is going to be our carryover for the general fund, which is $45,000. This final slide is our ending balances for designated funds. I want to point out a couple of things to you on this slide. The first is the COVID grant, the first line item. We received an $11,000 grant from Charles County for COVID, and it was specifically for the purpose of purchasing materials and supplies in order to safely open up again for worship. That payment came in two installments. The first came in 2020 for about half of the amount. That left us with a negative balance, and then we just recently received the other half. So that negative balance will be cleared up and showing probably about a $3,200 positive balance in that account. Second thing I want to point out to you is the emergency repair line item. It's highlighted in yellow here. We have $16,000 or almost $17,000 in that account, and that's a good amount to have as a reserve. You know, as our building ages, there are certainly times that our AC units will go out or something like that. So it's a good thing to have that much in the emergency repair fund, so we've got those funds available should we need them. Right below that is the food pantry amount, which is around $5,800. And that will help us to sustain that ministry that is so important to us. And then lastly, the last highlighted one is the Piece It Together campaign. It has, again, just about $17,000 in that account. And as the year progresses, we'll continue to pay those extra mortgage payments as we're able to. So I invite you to review the information again before the annual meeting. You can take your time looking at the presentation. And during the meeting on January 24th, I will be available to answer any of your questions. Thank you for your time.